Hey guys, and welcome back to the Model Car Cup series. Well, we have parts drying on our 1/32 scale Lumina. I'm putting finishing touches on the Plymouth Prowler, and in between that, I have been working on and off just a little bit on our United Scale Automotive Content Creators group build 70 Plymouth Roadrunner. So I want to bring you up to speed on where we were on that for the stock car, so stick around, we'll take a close look. Today's trivia question: what was the occupation of Bill France Sr. before he started NASCAR? Okay guys, as you remember, my project is, what I'm going to try to shoot for is this. And that is Richard Petty's 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner short track car. One of my all-time favorites, if not my all-time. That and the 71, as you remember. Anyway, I've been working on the body. It's the only thing I've worked on and off, but I want to bring you up to speed on where I am with that. In the opening video, I kind of showed you where I was going to have to go, and you can see the marker lights have been filled in, door handle's been removed. This little seam that was in this vent area here has been filled in. We went ahead and opened all the wheel wells. And I showed you how I did all of that. The front wheel wells, I just used a pill bottle with some sandpaper wrapped around it after I got my cut, and just kind of, as you can see, perfect fit. Smooth that out nice and round. And let's see, what do I do with the tire? There's one. As you can see, the tire sits, well, I hope you can see that right. Sits perfect right there. And for the rear, right about there. I should have put a rim in there or wheel so you could see it a little better. But it's going to give it the right stance. This, remember, had to go up to right about here, and kept the shape, kept comparing it to the pictures, and we got our shape right and our size right. And I think that turned out really well. On the other side, I got a little carried away with the Dremel. Actually, it slipped, and I wasn't paying attention, and I cut a big chunk out right here. But don't ever panic if something like that happens and think, oh no. All I did was, as you can see, I put a piece of sheet plastic, or I cut a piece that filled in. You see how big a piece, I hope you can see that I chunked out back there. Well, I just went ahead and cut it nice and straight in the little indention I had made. Put that in there. Then super glued a 10/1000 piece of plastic on the back to kind of give it some strength. And then just nice and easily sanded that, reshaped it. And where this body line is here, went back and water sanded all that nice and smooth. Can't feel it at all. Drilled out our fuel inlet, and I'm getting way ahead of myself. So let me go back up to the front first. The other thing we had to do was remove the windshield wipers. You see in this picture, when I first started sanding, those were molded in. And as you see here, big thing here is just take your time. And how I did that was I just took some 220 and folded it pretty small, and then just started nice and easy, a little bit at a time, not much pressure. Now, it took a little time to do, but we got them all off. You'll also notice too that I did remove all of that inside wheel well stuff. The hood, if you're doing a stock car, that little vent that opens up, let me tell you, that no matter how many times I sanded, puttied, block sanded so you could keep it kind of even, I still could see the indentation. But you can see now we finally got that worked out. That's probably about 3 layers of putty and then I guess 3 sandings. But we finally got that nice and smooth, so we're looking good on our hood there. The nose piece, I'm going to be cutting some of the center out and putting some screen in there, but this is just a stock Roadrunner nose or grill that I took out and de-chromed. But here's another one, and you notice how much thinner it is in comparison. And the reason I did that is when you put the grill, the stock grill in, it wants to sit just forward of the body line right there. And that's not a problem. But these stock cars usually had things a little more inset. So what I did was took some 220, and you see where the headlight stuff was. Just took and sanded. This looks like it's been drilled out. Actually, it hasn't been. I just took and sanded that down until, and again, that took some time, but until it thinned it down. And I could see through here, and I'll show you what we're going to do for that later on too. But fit right in there very nicely. I think that's going to look good. I'll have some screen on one, and then the headlight covers. And you just use a regular hole punch is perfect, and I'll get into the material we're going to be using on that too here shortly. Front bumper, as you recall, the front bumpers had the these molded in bumper guards on the front bumper. And so what I did was took and sanded all of that off after I de-chromed it. I took all of that off. And when I show you the back bumper, I'll show you what we're going to do there too. As far as the plates, the covers, there. And speaking of that back bumper, I'm going to go ahead and get to that real quick. There's our original chrome, and then our de-chromed. And you notice on the chrome, around these backup lights, there's a little lip. It's raised. Well, that needed to be removed. So that little raised hump there needed to be removed. So we sanded all of that off, and there'll be a plate over that, and the license plate area. And I'm going to be using real aluminum for that, and I'll again show you that in just a sec. The rear end, let me see if I can get around here. You see our overflow drilled out for our fuel inlet, and then the overflow right there. And the tail light covers I showed you. And now look at this picture here. You'll see basically you can use this. And by the way, these plates that I used on mine are evergreen 20 thousandths by 188. So it's 20 by 188 was the perfect width. You could use 10 thousandths. I just wanted it to be a little more pronounced, so I went with 20 thousandths, which is not very thick at all. But as you see in these pictures of the back of the car, they had those plates made there. And I used a piece of channel, and I cut one end off to make the rear spoiler. And you see how that's kicked back just ever so slightly. I love my little overflow there too. Also, you see in this picture the vent windows. Well, every car you see on these short track cars, and some of the Superbird, depending on which track, they did not have those vent windows. So as you can see here, I removed the vent windows. And to remove those, I started to use my photo etch razor saw, but I honestly just used the back of a number 11 and just lightly scribed until it came out, and then just kind of finish sanded down in there just a little bit. And that turned out pretty good. So the vent windows have been removed. All of that stuff's been done. But I think the body's coming along really, really well. Again, how that's going to be sitting right in there. Give it a good low profile look. Now the chassis, the wheel wells in the rear are going to have to be modified a little bit, because after I did this, when I put the chassis under there, it it's right at the edge there. So that's going to have to be cut out and a little bit bigger wheel well made so that can sit right about like that. And then again, the front is the same, right about there. Give it a good low stance, but that really nice look. Overall, I'm really pleased with the body where it is right now. There's a few more things in the front and back I need to do. The body, I'm going to do another rough sanding on it, just a final sanding on it before primer. I want a good finish on it, so I want to get that done. And these I'm going to open up a little bit so I can raise the bumper just slightly. To me, it just sat a little bit too low. And by the way, on the sides of the bumper, the rear bumper, you see this body line right here. It runs here. Well, that's also on the bumper, as you see here. Well, the bumpers need to be narrowed a little bit, and then there'll be that plate that comes across here. So, as you can see on the finished bumper, that body line has been removed, and these bumpers are, as you see how thick they are on the edges, these have been narrowed down, and I think it looks so much better, a more flush fit. And we'll be using some aluminum there, but I think that turned out really nice. For a stock car, there's a lot more modifications from stock than you would think there would be. Now, I was telling you about the filling in or putting a little plate over these the backup lights and the running lights in the front. Well, after I got all those little lips from the backup lights removed, I took out my Micromark punch. And like I said, by the way, the headlight covers, if you'll take just a regular hole punch, and what I'm going to be using is just an old lasagna pan bottom. And what you do with your punch, whether it's your and you see I've already cut out a piece here. And by the way, if you ever get a piece of this that's wrinkled or something, or has creases in it like you see a couple here, just take the handle of your X-Acto and go over it on both sides a few times. Look at that. Nice and flat. And just do that until you get it. Well, with your Micromark hole punch, or punch, and by the way, for those front bumper and rear bumper, these are two different sizes here and here. So I'm using the two largest holes here to make those. I've already done it, and I'll show them to you in a minute. But all there is to this is just lay that over, put your holder down on it, and then you just take your punch, and that stuff's so easy. Honestly, I've used the end of an X-Acto, and there you go. And then get your larger one, and then like I said, the hole punch is great for the headlight covers. It's perfect size. Micromark has these. Are pretty cheap, and as you see, all the sizes that you've got there, right down to these micro little bitty things. You could make your own rivets and stuff right out of there. But if you want a perfectly round little disc for such, there you go. Let me grab my tweezers here and I'll show you. Then you just take and a little bit of super glue. This is the smaller of the two, and that will go right there. And then we're going to use that same pie pan. We're going to cut that out, and we're going to make our little plate with the rivet marks over the license plate area. Now, how do we make those little rivet marks? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm going to put that down, and I usually hold it with my finger, and I take one of those map pins, and then just one at the top And I'm talking about barely touch it and you leave a great impression of a rivet on each side. Now, let me see if I can get my tweezers back over here. And as I said, well, here's our larger one for the front bumper. And it's not that much bigger. And let me get down here where you can see the rivet marks there a little bit. Well, if it'll focus. Anyway, you get the idea. You're seeing a little bit of the, well, here, I'll add a picture so you can see the rivet marks there. And then, again, what we're going to do is we're going to take our back bumper with the rivets and just lay that right there. Of course, the bumper's going to have to be re-chromed, which is no big deal. But you see the little rivet cover there. And we'll do the same thing when we make that plate for the license plate. We just take the pin and just push down in there. Pounce wheel is good for this too, but for these round pieces that doesn't work too well. And then the bigger one for the front. And by the way, there is no cover over the front license plate area. In fact, there will be a piece of that cut away, and I'll get to that later. And there you go. Well, I'm a little off-centered, but you get the idea. And you've got the rivet marks there that are holding that in place. And I think over that chrome, this real aluminum is going to look really sharp. But cool, huh? All right. That's where I am with this body right now. When you're going to do these some of these little things, tools, and I'm a tool fanatic, and I know some of you guys have said the same thing. Like I said, this came from Micromark, I believe it was, but really invaluable tool for a lot of that stuff. Little detailing stuff. Yeah, that one's a little too small. But I'm really pleased, like I said, with the grill, the way that's working out. And then again, I'm going to cut out and put some screen in there. And we'll get to that next time. In the next video, I'm really still focusing on a couple other things, especially that 32nd scale Lumina. So I'll probably not do another update on this for a little while, but at the same time, I'm kind of excited about this one. And so I want to get on the interior and the engine a little bit. The engine's not going to be seen because being on the track, the hood will be down. And so I'm going to cheat a little bit on the engine. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm going to try to cheat a little bit on the engine. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. But guys, as far as the Roadrunner goes, this is where we are right now. And I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Okay, guys, if you're not a subscriber, be sure you head over and give us a sub, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment. And as I always say, love to hear from you. Always fun, always fun. And hit the Teespring store. Make sure you're geared up. And I hope to see a lot of you guys in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. And we'll have some fun. Guys, thanks so much. Appreciate you tagging along on this one too. God bless, and we will see you in the next video. If you knew Bill France Sr. was a mechanic and auto repair shop owner, you're right.